EC3 in Impact Wrestling. What is going on with EC3 at Impact Wrestling? That's the big question, isn't it? EC3 was the name that everyone was talking about coming out of Slammiversary at the weekend. He was the last face we saw at the end of Slammiversary this weekend, right? At Impact Wrestling Slammiversary pay-per-view this past weekend, as Eddie Edwards, the new Impact World Champion, was celebrating in the ring with the Good Brothers, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. We thought the show was ending, and then we saw a video hyping the return of EC3 to Impact Wrestling. Of course, EC3 was one of the names released by WWE back in April on that Black Wednesday event, but is best known for his work in Impact Wrestling TNA from 2013 to 2018. During his run, he's a former TNA World Heavyweight Champion on 2 occasions. EC3, people know EC3 because of Impact Wrestling. Impact Wrestling is EC3, EC3 is Impact Wrestling. For me, and I mentioned this several times leading up to Slammiversary's pay-per-view at the weekend, whether when it was questioned, will EC3 be returned to the company, will he, won't he, etc. For me, it was a no-brainer that he did. It made the most sense for him to return there. It's his home. It's where he's had his best successes. It's where he's been a world champion. It's where he's respected. They have all of the footage of his biggest achievements as part of their video library. They can make him look and will present him like a star, which he is, and is a legitimate player in Impact Wrestling. And so it made so much sense for EC3 to return there, and it's an absolute no-brainer. And I'm really glad that he has returned to the company and will be appearing there going forward. Now, while it looks like he's returned to Impact, EC3 has been trying to play up on social media that he hasn't officially returned. It's not the case. He said, quote, "I have no home. I'm not back. I'm not here for friends or family. In reality, who I am has never been here. Nostalgia and comfort do not interest me. This isn't what you think it is. This is more. Hashtag control your freedom. Hashtag free EC3, end quote." So some people from that social media post have started to speculate that EC3 is going to be appearing at more than one promotion now that his 90-day non-compete clause with WWE is up. And I found that really, really confusing that some people would even think that. Some people are comparing it to the Cody Rhodes situation in 2016, right? When Cody Rhodes was released by WWE, once his non-compete clause was up, he kind of did a tour of the territories, right? He appeared everywhere. He signed short-term deals or deals that facilitated and allowed him to appear in multiple promotions. He appeared in Ring of Honor. He appeared in Impact Wrestling. He appeared in the NWA. He appeared in New Japan. He appeared in Rev Pro over here in the UK. He was all over the place. Any company that would take him, Cody Rhodes appeared in. He had big matches. He had matches with Kurt Angle, Mike Bennett. I think even EC3 probably in Impact Wrestling at some point. He appeared everywhere. That was the point. And some people are saying, well, EC3 is going to do the same thing. And when I hear people say that, no, that's just not going to happen. Why? Because it's not 2016 now, it's 2020, and regardless of what people think, we're still in a pandemic. This isn't as easy as jumping around from promotion to promotion because not many promotions are doing shows at the moment. So Impact Wrestling, they've got a show tonight, so EC3 is going to be on that show. Who else is going to do a show? AEW. Yes, could EC3 end up in AEW? Well, it's a possibility. It's without doubt a possibility, and maybe he's worked out a deal to appear in both companies. Do I think AEW would allow that? I don't know. I mean, I know AEW have been flexible about talents appearing in New Japan and appearing in Japan because they're not really competitors. They're different countries and just it's different. But for me, though, they're still blocked, those contracts. So whether it is Chris Jericho, whether it is Cody, Kenny Omega, Brody Lee, etc., who have those clauses in their contract that they can appear for New Japan in Japan, they're still blocked from appearing from any other wrestling company in North America. That doesn't change. So I think people thinking that EC3 has got the leverage to do that. I'm not trying to say that EC3 isn't a big star because I think he is, especially in Impact Wrestling with the way they're going to presenting and have presented him in the past. I don't think he has the sway, though, to say, oh, I want to have a contract with Impact Wrestling and AEW and Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor aren't doing shows at the moment. They've been hyping up some ROH TVs that they're going to do, but we don't know when, where. We don't know if they're going to run proper shows. And we've seen a handful, a very small handful of independent shows come back recently. I think we saw Synergy Wrestling. We saw GCW, of course, but that's it. And yes, some shows might be moving their way up in the near future. But this isn't like it was in 2016. There aren't multiple places to go right now because multiple places aren't putting on shows. The NWA is a great example of this. The NWA, they were doing NWA Power, and they were taping that out of the studios. There was a GCP or GCB studios in Atlanta, Georgia. They're not doing that because they can't at the moment, and they were previously uploading content to YouTube, but they're not doing that anymore because of the allegations made as part of the Speaking Out movement. So NWA aren't doing anything at the moment. They're not creating content. They're not uploading content. It's definitely not doing wrestling shows. So I think this idea that EC3 is going to show up in multiple promotions over the next few weeks, I would just be stunned because that pretty much means he's going to show up in AEW and Impact Wrestling. That's it. And look, maybe that might happen. Maybe that might be the case. But this idea he's going to do what Cody Rhodes did and appear on Impact, appear on Ring of Honor, appear on, AEW wasn't even around then, but now appear on AEW and do some independent shows over here in the UK. Just no, that isn't happening because the shows aren't happening. So I think that idea is a bit farcical and a bit of a stretch. We know that he is definitely appearing tonight on Impact Wrestling on Access TV. So the idea that he's not back and he's not home and he doesn't have friends and all that, I think is EC3 just being EC3. He's being very careful with the words he uses here, and he did the same prior to Slammiversary at the weekend. At midnight, when his WWE non-compete clause expired, he released a 7-minute long video on his Facebook page and other social media platforms, which was called The Narrative, and it was all about controlling your narrative. It was about a new EC3 showing up. It was his first post-WWE match. He had a sort of cinematic style match with someone in a sort of wrestling school ring in a warehouse. He burned his old EC3 gear from WWE. He's burnt his old contract. He burnt his old action figure, and he was walking to this warehouse where this wrestling ring was, and he was picking up, I don't want to say disciples because that's very Seth Rollins-like, but he was picking up almost followers, shall we say, along the way, and all these people were wearing EC3 hoodies and had the new EC3 logo on the back of it as we got to the match at the warehouse, and EC3 said, "You've been warned," and all of this stuff. And after that, once he posted that, a lot of people said, okay, right, EC3 is going to be at Slammiversary. He's going to be the mystery fourth opponent. That was the feeling, right? EC3 is going to be the mystery fourth opponent in the Impact World Championship match. Well, he wasn't, of course. That was Eric Young and Rich Swann. And EC3 kind of did confirm this prior to Slammiversary. He said, I don't have a fight and I'm not going to have a fight on July 18th. And he was right. He didn't have a fight. Didn't mean he wasn't going to show up though, because he did. He was part of the teaser at the end of the show. So I think once again with this tweet that he's done here, him saying, I have no home, I'm not back, I am not there for friends or family, all this sort of stuff. I'm not here for nostalgia or comfort. This isn't what you think it is. Again, he's being very careful with his words, okay? Whilst he might not say he has no home, because maybe he doesn't consider Impact Wrestling home. While he says he's not back, maybe it's because this is a different EC3 that's coming to Impact Wrestling. This isn't the old EC3. The old EC3 is dead. All of that sort of stuff, I think, is maybe what he's saying there. When he's saying he doesn't have friends, maybe he has acquaintances, or he has people that follow him. Maybe they are followers. This is the point. He's being very careful with his words and what he says, and that evidence is there from what he was saying prior to Slammiversary, and subsequently he appeared at Slammiversary anyway. Impact Wrestling have announced him for tonight's show, and they're teasing that we're going to hear more from him for tonight's show. So people that say, well, he's not back with Impact Wrestling, I don't know. Well, he's being advertised for the show tonight, so I'm pretty sure he is back. And Impact Wrestling released a press announcement announcing all the people that made their returns or debuts at Slammiversary at the weekend, and EC3's name was one of them. So I'm pretty confident that EC3 has signed with Impact Wrestling, has signed a contract, or at the very, very, very least verbally agreed a deal. Does this mean he won't appear in other organisations? Who knows? Who knows? He might have worked out a great deal, and if that's the case, good for him. But this idea that he's going to do a Cody Rhodes of 2016 and go to about 15 different promotions is just, that's not going to happen. So what does happen with EC3 in Impact Wrestling at the moment? What about this potential stable that I've pitched here called The Narrative? And the reason I say that is because of the way that Impact Wrestling used the words about EC3 when hyping up his potential return to the company. Now, when they were having these promos for Slammiversary, saying that a former world champion was going to be returning to the company, who that actually technically was, we don't know, because Chris Sabin is a former world champion, Eric Young is a former world champion, and EC3 is a former world champion, so Who that is, we don't know. But the tagline was a former world champion is coming to Slammiversary and he's bringing some friends with him. And again, you can look at that and digest that several ways. You can say that the former world champion returning and bringing friends with him is just a sort of a collective, other people are coming with him. Or you can look at it as the former world champion is EC3 and he's bringing friends with him that is a stable. And the reason I say that is because one of the parts of the promo and the vignettes for Slammiversary, when they were hyping up this former world champion returning, was 3 glasses with alcohol in it and looked to be 3 people drinking with each other. Now, what does that have to do with EC3? Well, at the end of Slammiversary on Saturday, when Gallows and Anderson were celebrating with the new Impact World Champion Eddie Edwards in the ring, and we had that cut-in of EC3, he looked furious, and what was he drinking? He had a glass of alcohol in his hand that looked very similar to the vignettes that have been shot by Impact Wrestling and have been teased by Impact Wrestling when hyping up Slammiversary. So a lot of people are assuming, okay, those glasses of whatever was in there has to do with EC3, and there were 3 glasses there, so that means, 3, EC3, also that's a hint, but it also could mean that he's the one that's bringing friends with him. So I thought a few different ways about this, and I think the interesting thing here is, what if all of the ex-WWE superstars that did debut, or return rather, at Slammiversary at the weekend, maybe these are the friends in question, right? We had Heath Slater make his Impact Wrestling debut at the weekend. We've just done a video about him that's on the channel, so I'll put a link to the description, to the video in the description here, and I'll also put a card up on the screen. What if Heath Slater is one of those people that is a friend of EC3, right? He was released by EC3 at the same time. He could be one of EC3's friends that he's brought to Impact Wrestling. And the other ex-WWE superstar that returned to Impact Wrestling at Slammiversary was Eric Young. And they were the only 2 people. I know Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson were released also, but they're the 2 ex-individual superstars that were released at the same time as EC3. So perhaps they're the ex-WWE superstars are the friends in question there. What if, of course, what if the 2 friends are Gallows and Anderson? Gallows and Anderson are legendary for their drinking, their alcohol drinking. They even had some beers at the end of Slammiversary with Eddie Edwards. Maybe the 2 friends in question of EC3 are Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, the Good Brothers, and then we have the stable known as the Narrative, and it's those 2. Although what I would counter that to is that at the end of Slammiversary, EC3, when he came on the screen after Gallows and Anderson were celebrating with Eddie Edwards and threw the glass of alcohol into the wall, he didn't look happy that Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson were the people celebrating with the new Impact World Champion. Why is that? We don't know, of course. That could be that EC3 was unhappy that maybe his 2 friends were celebrating with Eddie Edwards. Maybe EC3 was unhappy that these people were taking the spotlight away from him. Maybe EC3 is just rage-filled and it's a different version of EC3 since he was released by WWE. Regardless, it doesn't look like that this is going to be the EC3 that we are used to from his first run in Impact Wrestling. Remember, the EC3 previously in Impact Wrestling was the nephew of Dixie Carter, comedic, great look, cut funny promos, had great matches, was a heel, but was a cocky, smarmy heel and that sort of thing. This version of EC3 looks very different. It's a different look. He shaved his head. He has a goatee. It looks to be in even better shape, which is incredible for EC3 because that guy's jacked. But it looks to be much more serious, much more, rage focused, angry. There's a lot of anger there, and there's a lot of like he's lost and he doesn't know where he is, and the release by WWE, the sort of being thrown and left in the wilderness and having that disastrous WWE run has seriously affected him, and that's what he's doing in this version of the EC3 character. So maybe the 2 former WWE superstars that showed up on Impact on Saturday, maybe Heath Slater and Eric Young are the friends that he brings with him. Maybe eventually it is revealed that Gallows and Anderson are part of this stable with EC3. It makes sense, doesn't it? There are 3 people, 3 glasses, 3 friends, easy for me to say. But there isn't a guarantee that it's Heath Slater and Eric Young. It's not a guarantee that it's Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, because there are plenty of other names it could be too that he could bring with him to Impact Wrestling. What about Mike Bennett and what about Maria Kanellis? It doesn't have to be both male superstars or male wrestlers. It could be one male and one female. Now, Mike Bennett and Maria were both in Impact Wrestling at the same time as EC3. They were also in WWE at the same time as EC3. It would make sense. They've gone through the exact same thing. They left Impact Wrestling at roughly the same time. They debuted with WWE at roughly the same time. EC3 in NXT, and Mike Kanellis on SmackDown with his wife Maria. They both got released at the exact same time back in April. All of it makes sense. So perhaps the three friends, the three people drinking, the three glasses could belong to Mike Bennett and Maria Kanellis and EC3. Perhaps that could be the narrative. That could be fun. I've seen some people speculate that maybe Mike Bennett is the one to answer Cody's AEW TNT Championship Open Challenge on AEW this week. It's a possibility, of course, considering that Cody did feud with Mike Bennett in Impact Wrestling, along with his wife Brandy. Brandy and Cody Rhodes feud with Mike Bennett and Maria Kanellis whilst they were in Impact Wrestling. That was the major feud whilst Cody was with the company, because he wasn't with the company for too long a time. So maybe they pick up that in AEW. Maybe Mike Bennett and Maria Kanellis don't go back to Impact Wrestling. Myself, personally, I would like to see Mike Bennett and Maria come back to Impact Wrestling. I think that, once again, I've said this time and time again, and it's probably getting quite boring now, but the time I think it's the best place for them, purely because I think in AEW, I just think they'll get lost in the shuffle. And the best example of that is to look at people like Ricky Starks at the moment. Ricky Starks, of course, made his AEW debut a few weeks ago. He answered Cody's TNT Championship Open Challenge, had a great match. There was buzz around him. Of course, he's a former NWA television champion, the first NWA television champion in a very, very long time, once they brought back the title earlier this year at the Hard Times pay-per-view. But ever since then, we haven't seen Ricky Starks on Dynamite. Yes, there's been 2 Fyter Fest shows and a Fight for the Fallen show, but apart from that, Ricky Starks has just been appearing on Dark. And yes, Dark is viewed by quite a few people on YouTube, but it's not like appearing on AEW Dynamite on TNT every week, and it's not like being featured in a prominent position on Dynamite every week on TNT, and it's not like being featured in these Fyter Fest shows or these Fight for the Fallen shows, or it's not like being featured on pay-per-view. And I worry for Ricky Starks that might not be a possibility now, because he, for me, already feels like he's lost a bit of that shine. He already feels like he's now in the shuffle when it comes to people appearing on AEW Dark. And yeah, he might be getting wins, and people go, yeah, but he's winning on AEW, blah 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 blah. But he's not as featured as maybe he could be if he was in Impact Wrestling right now. Could you imagine if Ricky Starks was with Impact Wrestling right now? What an addition to the X Division that would be, in a Ricky Starks versus Chris Bay match. Now that would be money. And he would have appeared at Slammiversary at the weekend, and they could have done all sorts of stuff there. Is he probably on a better deal for AEW than he would be in Impact? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that one. I don't think he's on amazing money at AEW right now. So I think if you're Mike Bennett and your other names that still have yet to decide where they're going to go, I think they need to have a look at, okay, where can I make the best impact? Pun intended. Where can I be of the most value, and where can I improve my career the most? And I think for a lot of these names, Impact Wrestling is going to be the best destination for them. So whether it comes to Mike Bennett and Maria Kanellis, hopefully they are in Impact Wrestling. And would it be fun to have them in a stable with EC3 and pay off that tease that Impact Wrestling was doing about Slammiversary? Yeah, it would be great. But there are also other names that it could be instead of Maria Kanellis and Mike Bennett. What about Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder? Now, these two names were names that a lot of people have touted to go to Impact Wrestling. They were Raw Tag Team Champions, won the title at WrestleMania last year, of course. Long-time tag team partners, long-time friends, whether it goes back to the Major Brothers, the Edgeheads, or Hawkins and Ryder. Zack Ryder, former Intercontinental Champion, former US Champion, hugely popular on social media, just has a huge following, and he's one of the true crimes of WWE in recent times about how over he got and how just poorly booked and buried and all of it that he got whilst he was in WWE. It is such a sad story when it comes to that. But of course, they were amongst the names that were released back in April. And a lot of people thought, okay, maybe they're going to go to Impact Wrestling. Maybe they're going to appear at Slammiversary. They didn't appear at Slammiversary. We don't know the situation right now, whether they are going to go to AEW or they're going to go to Impact Wrestling. Again, my response to that would be, I think they can do better in Impact Wrestling than they can in AEW right now. If they go to AEW as a tag team, you look at AEW's tag team division right now, it's the best tag team division in the world, hands down. There is not a tag team division on this planet that is better than AEW. So some people will respond to that and say, well, why wouldn't you go to AEW then? Why wouldn't you want to go where the tag team wrestling is the best in the world? The reason their tag team division is the best in the world is because it's the deepest division in the world. The amount of tag teams that they have, great tag teams that they have on their roster right now in AEW is insane. Whether it is the Young Bucks, whether it's FTR, whether it's the Lucha Brothers, whether it's Blade and the Butcher, whether it's Santana and Ortiz, whether it's Jurassic Express, whether it's the Superbad Squad, whether it's, whoever, they have Natural Nightmares, whether it's whoever that they have right now. Hawkins and Ryder, yeah, they would be a great addition to that, but they won't be as featured as much as they will be in Impact Wrestling. Now, Impact Wrestling is building their tag team division. It's improving. The North recently became the longest reigning Impact tag team champions in the company's history. They've been champions for well over a year. For me, they're one of the best tag teams in the world right now. They're one of the names that people like FTR were talking about wanting to work with now that they've left WWE. And do I think that's a possibility at some point? Yes. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be a possibility in Impact Wrestling. I think the North, hopefully sometime way down the line, but at some point we'll go to AEW because I just think they're that good. I think they're that much money is to be made there with the North. I think they're one of the best tag teams in the world. But Impact Wrestling are building that tag team division. Whether it is the North, and we've seen the Motor City Machine Guns return to Impact Wrestling. We've got Triple XL, Reno Scum, TJP and Falaba. All of those people are improving that tag team division. But I think Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder coming into Impact Wrestling would be a massive addition to that tag team division right now and would, once again, take it up another level. Now, Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder, again, released at the same time as EC3. They come as a pair, so they would be perfect heaters for EC3 if we were going to have a sort of trio-type stable here called The Narrative. And does anyone need or want to control their narrative more than Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder? EC3's biggest thing at the moment is that he's been trying to control his narrative, choose his narrative, be in control of his destiny. Is there anyone, maybe Kurt Hawkins slightly less, but in terms of Zack Ryder, is anyone that had to control their narrative more and has been misused and misrepresented and had their narrative controlled by someone else longer or worse than Zack Ryder? I don't think so. If anything, I think he's probably worse than EC3. All of the injustices and the bad booking decisions and being in the wilderness and all of that stuff with Zack Ryder, whether it comes to botched title wins or winning the championship at WrestleMania and losing it 24 hours later, or getting so over that people like John Cena wanted to work with him and then he just got destroyed by Kane every single week on Monday Night Raw back in 2012, and getting over on YouTube, but then WWE not liking that he got over on YouTube, so punishing because of it, or being one of the most popular acts in Madison Square Garden, then coming back and then Triple H asking him why he dyed his hair. Those whole things fit into the choose your narrative storyline. That is the ultimate choose your narrative superstar is Zack Ryder, and Kurt Hawkins factors into that too, considering the way that he was booked of the losing streak and all of that sort of stuff. So that works. That trio would work. If you wanted to have a trio called The Narrative, which involved Kurt Hawkins, Zack Ryder, and EC3, to me, that looks to be money. Now, are Impact Wrestling going to do that? I don't know. That's me speculating and fantasy booking on my part. I have no insider information if that's something they want to do. If they do want to do that creative and they want me to write it, hit me up, Impact Wrestling, because I think that's a good idea and I think it's something that is possible and I think it would be money, and I think people would like to see Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder in a serious light. They don't want to see Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder be goofballs and be the internet and all this sort of stuff. You can have them be serious. It could be a badass trio. And I think EC3, does he need heaters at the moment? Does he need a group? No. But I think it would be fun, and I think it would be compelling television, and I think it would be something interesting. And most importantly, you think about the buzz that's going on with Impact Wrestling at the moment, and the amount of people that are talking about Impact Wrestling at the moment, and have watched Slammiversary at the weekend. Slammiversary was #1 trending event in America, and it was certainly trending worldwide also. You have to carry on that momentum. You have to keep that buzz coming. How do you do that? Debut Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder as the stable of EC3 at the end of Impact Wrestling tonight on Access TV, and that will certainly get a lot of people talking. That would certainly get a lot of people talking and a lot of people interested. But if not Hawkins and Ryder, who else? I've seen some people say The Ascension. The Ascension could work. I would prefer it to be Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder, though. But I think The Ascension could work. I've always pegged them as a team that would go to Impact Wrestling after being released by WWE. As I mentioned, the tag team division is just way too deep in AEW, and they would be on Dark every single week. I'm not I don't mean it as a discredit to them or a disservice to them. I'm not saying that they're bad or they're terrible or anything like that, but I don't think they're on the level of the Bucks, FTR, Lucha Brothers, all of those teams, Omega and Page. They're nowhere near. They were great in NXT, and they were booked really well in NXT, and I think that's why they were great. And I think that they can have potential to do something quite substantial in Impact Wrestling. I mentioned about building up that tag team division, whether it is the North, the Motor City Machine Guns, Hawkins and Ryder maybe as well. That can work, and if you bring in the Ascension, then you've got a pretty solid tag team division there that you can work with. So could they be heaters for EC3? Yes, I just don't know. I don't know if I'd really like that picture. That to me I think Hawkins and Ryder just feels bigger, and it feels better, and it feels more in keeping with the Choose Your Narrative storyline and the Choose Your Narrative theme, and controlling your destiny and having people manipulate your destiny and being angry at the system. I just don't think that really works with the Ascension. How many injustices have the Ascension had to deal with in their wrestling careers? They were booked really well in NXT. It didn't work out for them on the main roster. That's it. Whereas with Hawkins and Ryder, especially Zack Ryder, it's time after time, getting over, being pushed back down, getting over, being pushed back down, having ideas shot down, having title reigns cut short, not being put in opportunities to succeed, to thrive. That fits in with what EC3 is trying to preach here when about controlling your narrative, not listening to other people, being in control of your career. It fits with Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder. It makes the most sense there. And like I said, it will be 3 guys, 3 drinks, 3 glasses. It makes a lot of sense. But if not Hawkins and Ryder, if not the Ascension, if not Heath Slater and Eric Young, and if not Gallows and Anderson, could we maybe have Eric Rowan go to Impact Wrestling? Now, we don't know the situation at the moment with Eric Rowan. Of course, Eric Rowan was one of the names that was released in April, and for me, certainly was a surprising name to be released in April. I didn't see that coming. I thought, giving the spotlight that he had on Raw, even if it was the stupid spider gimmick, but the stuff that he was doing on SmackDown towards the end of 2019, with the whole Roman Reigns feud and the stuff with the attacker, and previously being a heavy for Daniel Bryan, he would be pretty safe. It wasn't the case, and he was also released back in April. Could he come in as a heater for Eric Young, for EC3? It's a possibility, yeah. I would be slightly concerned that I think it's very similar to sort of the Daniel Bryan role that he was in not that long ago. And yeah, he's always going to be typecast as a big muscle guy, even though, aesthetically he's not that, but you know what I mean, a big heavy guy and the muscle, a bodyguard type figure. And he kind of got out of that during his singles run there last year in WWE. I just think that the pairing of him with EC3 would be way too similar to the Daniel Bryan role. It would feel like, warming up the dinner of WWE's bad creative there. And not to say that the Rowan and Daniel Bryan pairing was bad, because I actually did like it a lot. I thought it worked really, really well. I just don't think that they should do it in Impact Wrestling. It'd be way too similar to that role. And I think Eric Rowan's good enough to be out on his own, to work on his own. He proved that during the end of his WWE career on SmackDown and briefly on Raw. So if he does come into Impact Wrestling, I would like to see him as a singles, and I think he could do really well there. Will he come into Impact Wrestling? I really don't know with this one. I think he could come into AEW, and he would do very well in AEW. We've also seen a lot of reference to him in WWE recently on SmackDown and at Extreme Rules with the Wyatt Swamp fight. We saw in all of those highlights and flashbacks to the Wyatt family and Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt, we didn't see a lot of Brody Lee. He was cut out of most of those things. Of course, he was Luke Harper in the Wyatt family, but a lot of the footage that had Eric Rowan in, they largely kept in. And a lot of people speculated, does that mean Eric Rowan's going back? He feels like a WWE guy and someone that WWE would want, and I was very surprised that they released him in the first place. Does this mean they'll bring him back? I don't know. I would be surprised if they did. I think he would do great in Impact Wrestling. I just don't know if we're going to see him in any professional wrestling company for a while. I might be completely wrong. He might appear on AEW on Wednesday, or he might even appear tonight on Impact Wrestling. If he does, as I mentioned, I don't think he should be with EC3. I just think that's too similar to what he was doing before. I just don't think he'll be part of the EC3 dynamic going forward in Impact Wrestling. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on EC3 and Impact Wrestling? What do you think he's going to do? Is he going to be just in Impact Wrestling? Is he going to appear in other companies like AEW too? Do you think he's going to have a stable in Impact Wrestling as well? Is he going to be surrounded by these friends that Impact Wrestling has teased? Or is he going to be drinking with the people that was teased also? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll be sure to reply to all of your comments that you have about EC3 and about Impact Wrestling. I really enjoy interacting with all of you guys in the comment section. If you've liked this video as well, be sure to give it a like. The more likes we get, the better for us on this channel. It really does help us out and put us in people's recommendation feeds. If you've enjoyed this video, also please do share it with a friend. And most importantly, if you're new to the channel and you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. We're over 500 subscribers now, halfway there on the road to our ultimate goal, which is 1,000 subscribers. Once we get there, we will be doing a lot more live streams, watch-alongs, and just doing a lot more diverse and entertaining and enjoyable content on this channel. It's just a lot easier once we get to that 1,000 mark, because we can monetize the channel and have a lot more fun that way. But if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. If you have, I really do appreciate all your support. Everyone that's subscribed so far, I really do appreciate it. It's really humbling, and just I can't thank you enough. It's just it's invigorating, and I don't really know. I can't put it into words. Thank you very much. If you haven't already, also, please do follow us on all of our social media platforms. The links are in the description box below. They're also on the screen. You can follow us at WrestleNews365 on Facebook and Instagram, and at 365Wrestle on Twitter. So be sure to give us a like and a follow there. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. And I'll speak for you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.